Jon. Aye, I can see you have returned from the grave, but Rhaegar's son? The Lord shook his head, a faint smile upon his lips. Too fanciful a tale, that. Jon flexed the fingers of his sword hand. You are stubborn as an aurochs. He opened his fist and closed it again beneath the trestle table. There was some feeling in his palm, but none in his fingers anymore, nor even in his thumb. Lords across the realm have bent the knee to the true king. I hoped you would have more sense today than you had yesterday. Perhaps on the morrow. Who knows? On the morrow, you may be dead again. Lord Mattos helped himself to the meat on his plate. The prisoner could not be trusted with a fork, let alone a knife, so he ate with his hands. Grease ran through dirty fingers to dribble on his doublet of white and gold. 4 nights past, the garment had been immaculate. Now it read like a history of stains and fruitless chatter. Jon Cunnington glanced at his own plate, full and inviting. Dinner was gammon steak, boiled cabbage with bits of apple, and mashed turnips smothered in butter. The men of the Reach had seemingly brought their entire winter stores. They had autumn's reapings by the cartload, fresh vegetables and fruit, sacks of beans and barley and corn, barrels of ale and casks of the finest vintages. They'd even let their herds graze right outside the ancient castle, ready to be slaughtered for each night's feast. What the Golden Company's scouts had found here more resembled a harvest festival than a siege. The small force that Mace Tyrell had left beneath the walls of Storm's End under the command of Lord Mattos Rhoyne numbered only a few hundred, just enough to keep Stannis Baratheon's garrison penned in and starving. Though Connington had sown the fields with rumors that his forces were mere pirates, that they were lost in the Rainwood, that their goal had been to take Griffin's Roost alone, Rowan's men were forewarned of his coming long enough to prepare their response. Dipped banners had greeted the Griffin, and not a drop of blood was spilled. The Golden Company had made their foes' camp their own, winning with it hundreds of horses, 24 mangonels, and all the provisions Tyrell had failed to take north with him. There was wealth amongst the captive knights as well. Black Bollock claimed a sable cloak with a spiderweb brooch. Humphrey Stone took a Valyrian steel dirk from a man whose armor bore a Checky lion, and Watkins relieved a Black Bar prisoner of his new-made breastplate. But the greatest prize here was the Lord of Golden Grove himself. Storm's End has yielded, Lord Jon said. The rest of Westeros will soon follow. Rowan gave him a sideways look. More lies. Yesterday you said you had the strength of Sunspear. The day before you boasted the castellan of Harrenhal's fealty. In a week, you'll claim all 7 kingdoms and tell me I'm the very last to pledge. See for yourself. Jon gestured at the tent's flap. The Golden Company's banners fly from the ramparts. With such a mighty fortress fallen to us, what do you think awaits your own seat? The wood beneath our gold is stronger than your gilded rust, he said defiant. His ankles in fetters, Lord Rowan stood and crossed the tent with waddling steps. He lifted the canvas flap and peered out through the pale mist. Then let out a mocking laugh. Those are the banners of Baratheon. Do you think yourself a great trickster? Jon the Clever, should I call you? Clever. His hand itched beneath the glove. Are you so sure? He asked. Tell me, which do you see? A heart or a heart? The gold flags were wet and limp, he knew, bogged down by the thick fog rolling in off Shipbreaker's Bay. The winter's broom, the Stormlanders called it. Connington had missed its gloom, the mysteries it cloaked. Those banners look like the Company's to me, and I wager our foes will think the same. How disheartening the sight will be to them. Lord Mattos now squinted as he looked up to Storm's End, rubbing his stubbled jaw. Only a fool would believe you could take such a stronghold. We will see who is a fool. The support of your house would mean much and more in the coming battle and in the wars to come. Spare a thought for your lady wife. When the singers sing of these years, would you not have Rowan and Redwine counted amongst the heroes, rather than the fallen? I loathe singers, Mattos Rowan said, turning back to Lord Jon. His rosy cheeks burned redder. But even if I didn't, I know a lost cause when I see one. How many men do you really have? 1,000 horse? Maybe 4,000 or 5,000 foot? Mace Tyrell has 5 times your cavalry, and thrice your infantry at least. I sent riders north before I lowered my flag to you, dead man. By now they will have told Tyrell everything, and his full strength rides. You don't stand a chance. Only as cavalry rides. I doubt the foot soldiers have even crossed the Wendwater, and my scouts tell me mine own cousin Ronnet leads the van, not Mace Tyrell. Worse for you, then. Lord Tyrell might have accepted your surrender, let you live out your days on the wall. The singers there are quite good, I hear, if that is so important to you. Red Ronnet, on the other hand, I know his temper well. It will come to blood. I pray that Sir Ronnet is as unyielding as you say. Lord John would not let himself feel pity for his cousin, though he had taken no joy in spreading fables about the young griffin's fates. Now vengeful fury would be consuming Ronnet. Anger, to burn away the grief he felt for his brother and sister. John Connington knew what loss did to a man. He would use that. John the Clever? No. John the Butcher they will name me. John the Kinslayer. But it was worth any name to see Aegon named king. Rowan made a disgusted noise and looked back out the tent. I thought the Golden Company's banners were colorful. A destrier, with dragon wings. That was Bittersteel's sigil. A shame, said Lord Mattos. Flying horses would have been something new, at least. Instead, all I see are tedious banners, a lifeless commander, and a certain result. Who knew butchery would be so dull? They were done for today. You may yet find us entertaining. We mummers tend to be. John Connington summoned guards to take Lord Mattos away. When he was alone, he reached for his dagger, only for it to slip from his fingers and tumble to the floor. He glared at his wayward hand. During the battle, Griff thought, it must go then. With his left hand, he grasped his fork and shoveled a glob of turnips into his mouth. "My Lord Connington!" called a voice from without. Connington chewed and swallowed. "Enter!" 2 sergeants joined him in the tent, white mist swirling in behind them. He recognized Kasper Hill by his close-cropped brown hair and big bushy brown beard. The tall man was carrying a Moorish lens. The other one, Duncan Strong, had a red walrus mustache and dark, saggy eyes. Both men's boots were covered in manure. "Kasper, what news of our Dornish princess?" "She's in that Moorish cog with Duncan's brother, my lord. But they're just sitting there in the bay. Been there hours. Don't know why." Connington smiled. The landing at Storm's End lies within a cave that can be reached only at high tide. The sail sail we took on has missed the earlier rising. Kasper only scratched his head, but Duncan Strong nodded. "There are 2 high tides a day," he explained to Hill. "One when the moon has long set, one when it's risen high overhead. It will be well into night before the ship can dock within the castle." Duncan's knowledge was impressive. This man was no sailor, no more than his brother was. But whilst most men in the company spent their leisure sleeping, dicing, and retelling old war stories, the Strong brothers were always reading. It was rumored they had studied at the Citadel, though neither had a link to show for it. "And you 2 will tell me the moment Martell is inside." Kasper grunted. "My lord, must it be us that go back to the cliffs? We've been knee-deep in mud and shit all day. I can barely breathe out there." "Best get used to the smell of shit. This will be a battlefield soon enough," John Connington said. "And yes, it must be you. It will be dark soon, and the fog is heavy. You have the sharpest eyes in the company. Do not fail me." Kasper Hill looked as if he was about to say something, but Duncan Strong cut him off. "As you command, my lord." When the sergeants took their leave, Connington rose, grabbed a steak with his left hand, and paced the floor while eating. The princess. She was the riskiest part of his scheme. Should we have waited? It had been a fortnight since Princess Arianne Martell was spotted at Ghost Hill by one of Lysono Mar's informants. When word reached Griffin's Roost, Lord John and Homeless Harry Strickland had assembled their war council once more. Prince Aegon had sat and listened as his captains discussed their next move. "We have the Dornishmen," said Homeless Harry. "We must wait for their forces to join our own, or the alliance is wasted." "Must we?" asked Lyman Pease. "Prince Doran hasn't sent any raven telling us to expect support, and his armies sit idle in the Prince's Pass and in the Boneway. The castles we claimed so far, we claimed by surprise. Surprise runs out. How long do we wait for these spears that might not come?" "They must come," declared Dick Cole. Why else would Doran's heir herself be here, if not to swear fealty? To bargain, I'd wager, said Franklin Flowers. Dornishmen are greedy buggers. They want to marry their princess to our prince. Never doubt it. They'll be disappointed. Prince Aegon must wait for the Dragon Queen, said Sir Raleigh Duckfield. Aegon had insisted the knight attend the council as Lord Commander of his Kingsguard. Connington did his best to hide his annoyance. At the man's presence, and at his title, as the only Kingsguard named, Duckfield commanded no one but himself. Soon his station would be filled by a knight of some great house. He would see to it. Prince Aegon bristled at the knight's words. I am not here to wait, Raleigh. I am here to reclaim my father's kingdom. Connington allowed himself a smirk before looking to the spy master. Who travels with her to broker? He asked. No one of note, said Lysono Mar. The most noble attendant to the princess is the third daughter of Lady Alice Ladybright, Sunspear's treasurer. Sir Franklin sniggered. Women counting coppers. No wonder Dornishmen are always penniless. Ladybright? Connington asked. It was a minor house, the girl heir to nothing. A handmaiden most like. Who else? Prince Doran's natural niece, a girl of 4 and 10. If my spies heard correctly, her name is Elia. Lysono Mar paused a moment. There's also a raven tender, but no maester, and an honor guard of 3 knights, all quite comely, one of whom is rumored to be Princess Arianne's paramour. The men exchanged uncertain looks. Flowers let out a chuckle. There would be no envoy other than the princess herself, it seemed. And her companions were a pack of riddles. Prince Doran never meant to support us, decided Lyman Pease. His son is betrothed to a Lannister. He makes mock of us. And puts his own heir in our hands? Said Dick Cole. Dornishmen are a queer lot, then. Her plaything's presence is a good sign, as I see it. Doran would not demand a marriage with one hand while introducing the bride's lover with the other. And the bastard girl, with the name of our prince's mother? Asked Connington. What is the meaning of that? Half our company is bastard-born, shrugged Homeless Harry. Does it have to have meaning? The War Council had continued well into the afternoon. Strickland and most of the other captains had wanted to delay their march on Storm's End, with only Cole and Flowers arguing to press on. Prince Aegon sat in his red doublet and listened, his purple eyes taking them all in. Slowly, John Connington's resolve had weakened. Perhaps it would be best to hear what this princess had to say before the die was cast. Then Haldon Halfmaester had entered the chamber, cage in hand. My lord, a visitor from the Citadel has just arrived, he said. It seems that winter has... John! Screamed the great white bird. The War Council fell silent and turned to Connington. The raven stared at him as well. Then it shrieked again. March! It seemed to cry out, beating its wings in panic. March! 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 Wordless, John returned the raven's black-eyed glare. I think that puts an end to our discussion, announced Prince Aegon. The White Raven heralds the changing of the seasons. Winter has returned to this land after many years, as has the Golden Company, and the true king of Westeros. He rose from his seat. We are here to stay. We are no longer exiles, cast-offs, nor summer children. We have not come home to huddle in castles, wait for spearmen, dream of spring. No, we cross the ocean to dance with swords, claim our birthright, and rule with honor. Prince Aegon, Homeless Harry entreated, I do urge caution. Could we at least discuss this plan of yours to lead the attack? Why do you call me Prince? The boy snapped. Did you not kneel to me at Volantharis? On that day I became a king, and you all ceased to sell your swords. Homeless Harry gave John Connington a dark glance. March! The raven interrupted. Lord John ignored the bird and answered carefully. We call you Prince merely because you have yet to be crowned, Your Grace. Then let that be done after our victory at Storm's End, the prince said. This clever bird has the right of it. We march. A fortnight later, the memory still chafed at John Connington. The white bird had flown directly from the Citadel. Yet who among the Archmaesters could have had an inkling of their plans? Some old friend of Haldon's? The Half-Maester had denied it fervently. Or was Lady Lamore right? A message from the gods. John had considered another possibility. The spider. My lord, Another voice called from outside the tent. John Connington set down his steak upon his plate and called his thoughts back to the hour at hand. "Enter!" Sir Brendel Byrne came in out of the mist. The grizzled knight's was a face Connington knew from serving together under Toyne, though they had not been close even in the old days. Sir Brendel was niggardly with tales of his past, so, in truth, John's old comrade was a near stranger to him. His accent could have been from the Reach, highborn even, but John Connington had never heard of any House Byrne along the Mander, or anywhere else in Westeros. Franklin Flowers oft japed that the man had sprung fully formed from some rocky knoll. "My lord, our scouts report that the Tyrell army is camped 10 miles north with 5,000 horse," said the knight. The company's outriders had been tracking the host's movement for the past 2 days. They bear the banners of Fossaway, Crane, Oakheart, and Connington. Finally they are here. No Tarley banners. The huntsman was not to be seen. Then it seems Lord Randall is not the eager man he once was. Still no sign of any footmen. "No, my lord," the sergeant replied. "The host is all cavalry." "Good," said Lord John. "Most like they will strike at dawn, with the rising sun at their backs. Spread word for all men to be in position by the hour of the nightingale. And find me Pikewood Peak." It was not long before Sir Pikewood stood in the tent's entrance, outlined by a grey blanket of fog. His tunic bore the triple castles of Starpike, Whitegrove, and Dunsonbury, the ancient seats of the exile's proud house. While Connington boasted 50 generations of tradition, the peaks could claim 500, going back to the dawn of days. "My lord, the mangonels have been moved and are in position as you commanded." Pikewood was a serious man, determined to restore his house to glory. He and Connington were much alike in that. "Though it may displease you to hear that 3 are not functioning as expected." "That will serve, Sir Pikewood. Is the pitch ready?" "Yes, my lord, and Tormund says the faggots have been bound and prepared, all 3,000. They are soaking in oil. With the fog and mud, little else is like to catch fire, but the sticks will. When should the men proceed?" "Not until the princess is inside Storm's End. Then we begin." "Yes, my lord. And the trumpets." "We must have absolute silence until I give the signal. Then your men will give them wind," John reminded him. "But tell them to keep their lips buzzing. I want no false tones when we commence. Bold, strong blasts are what homeless Harry needs." "As you command," Pikewood said. But he did not take his leave. "Is there aught else?" "Some of the men. They have requested wine, my lord. For courage." "Beware." The men had been content with water since the arrival of the White Raven. When the captains had left the war council at Griffin's Roost, Connington and the half-maester had remained to craft letters for King's Landing and the Stormlands. What would Tywin Lannister write? How would he win the day? That was when Ronnet Connington entered his mind. He had tried to push the thought away, hoping a better scheme would come to him, but none had. With a heavy heart, John Connington resolved himself. In the style of the castle's late maester, Haldon would spread rumors and falsehoods by raven's wings to give the company the upper hand they needed. "We are in search of allies, my lord," Haldon had cautioned. "Once dispatched, a rumor cannot be recalled. When we come to treat, how many lords will have heard you are a rapist, a kinslayer? If we are successful, I will be a kinslayer in truth. You are certain Ronnet is in King's Landing?" Haldon nodded. "A letter for his bastard came to the castle 2 days past. He is a guest at court. Then he will beg the court's leave to take his vengeance, and Mace Tyrell will be happy to—" "John!" the raven cawed. Connington and the half-maester turned to the bird, still in its cage. "Beware!" Its great wings beat against the metal that contained them. "Wine! Beware wine! Beware wine!" The 2 men paused. "For many years the realm believed you died in your cups," the half-maester suggested a moment later. "Mayhaps the sender, whoever they may be, wishes you to be sober." "John!" the raven screamed again. "Beware! Beware! Beware wine!" John Connington had walked over to the bird, unsheathed his sword, and slid the blade between the bars of the cage. The raven gave no more warnings. Other than Haldon, John Connington had confided the raven's second message only to Lady Lamore. "It's from the gods," she had said. "The gods!" Connington gave a bitter laugh. It made no sense. The father knows I'm no sot. Does he? Asked Lamore, with the hint of a smile. Half the castle gossips that you start each day with a jug of bad wine. After that, there had been no wine for Jon Connington, or anyone else in the Golden Company. We fight with clear minds and steady arms, he told Sir Pikewood. For courage, tell the men to pray to the warrior. Jon flexed the fingers of his sword hand again and said a silent prayer for courage of his own. It had to be done before it reached the wrist. Understood. The knight gave a bow. As Peake stepped outside, Connington noted the dimming grayness that covered up his form. Dusk, Jon thought. Peake, he called. Sir Pikewood wheeled around in the brougham. Yes, my lord. Find Maelo Jane and send him to me. The knight nodded, and the tent flap closed. Connington pushed his dinner aside and laid out fresh parchment on the table. With his left hand, he guided a quill into the numb fingers of his right. Then the hand wrote one final message. Griff read over the words as the ink dried. They were simple enough, but knowing there would be no more lent them a certain weight. He might be able to scratch something out with his left hand, but never again with the ease and grace he'd enjoyed all his life. When Jon Connington was a boy, he had kept a terrible secret. His lord father would have disapproved, he knew, but Jon had read every book of verse in the Roost's library 3 times over, sneaking there by night, with only a candle to keep him company. The foolish youth had tried his own hand at the art as well, though the only eyes to look upon his poems had been his own, and Rhaegar Targaryen's. Jon Connington had presented the prince with the poem he felt proudest of. It was a sad one, perhaps a bit clumsy, written about his mother, who had died trying to birth him a sister. As the prince's purple eyes read, the boy's heart pounded. Honest words, he had said when he had finished. Clever. Clever. Was that a compliment or polite dismissal? I shall set it to music, the prince had promised him. Jon never knew whether Rhaegar had written a melody for his poem, as he'd said he would. If he had, he'd never played it for Jon, and the song had died at the Trident. There would be no more poems for Jon Connington, no songs from his silver prince. Only blank parchment and silence. No, not silence. Worse than silence. Clanging. Connington was staring at his gloved fist when Maelo Jane entered. My lord, he said. Maelo Jane wore 5 golden rings on each of his arms for his decade with the company. In the pommel of his sword, an emerald glimmered in the candlelight. Maelo, the time for battle is here. Connington rolled up the message and handed it over. Take this to Harry and my son. The captain nodded. To Prince Aegon. Yes, my lord. Stay with them until you hear the signal. Aye, said Maelo. The trumpets. Come the dawn, all eyes will be upon us.